Welcome to the Post Credits Podcast, where we talk about movies after the credits roll. My name is Jesse.
My name is Max.
And I'm Logan.
And today, we continue our series of weekly spoiler reviews by getting delivered from nowhere with this week's prestige musical biopic about Bruce Springsteen, aptly titled Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere.
Yes, I will say that was a really good lead-in. Good one. Good job on that one. Originally it was supposed to be called Deliver Me From Nowhere, but people go, what song by Springsteen is that? So what better way to put Springsteen in front of a colon? Because that's what Hollywood loves to do nowadays.
It's just, I didn't really know who the movie was about until the opening title.
Yeah.
I thought it was about Carmen Brazato.
Yeah,
Carmen Brazato.
So this movie about Bruce Springsteen, naturally, the lead playing Bruce is Jeremy Allen White, who you probably know from his role as Carmen Brazato on The Bear, the FX TV show. It is directed by Scott Cooper, who I'm not super familiar with his filmography. Yeah. This is the first of his I've seen. I know Max has seen a couple more.
Yeah, I've seen a few from him. He's done Black Mass, a movie with Johnny Depp with really weird makeup. And then another movie called The Pale Blue Eye, which came out a couple of years ago with Christian Bale, a movie that nobody remembers. Even for me, I almost forgot about it. So I looked up Scott Cooper, and I was like, oh my god, that's the Netflix movie with Christian Bale that I remember watching. So, I don't know. He's a guy that, he's just a name out there in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough. He's just not super well-known, or he hasn't done that much, stuff that so many people have seen, I feel.
Yeah.
This movie also stars Jeremy Strong.
Who I'm not super familiar with. I know you.
Me neither.
Yeah, I know Jess. I know you're more familiar with him than I am.
So I watched The Apprentice last year, which was the role for which he was Oscar nominated last year. He was quite excellent in that movie. He played Roy Cohn, Trump's lawyer / assistant / manager at certain parts of the movie. Excellent performance in that movie. Definitely deserved the Oscar nomination. Arguably deserved the win, but also Kieran Culkin deserved the win, so I'm not mad at that result. I really like Jeremy Strong as an actor. He's playing Mark Zuckerberg next year in The Social Reckoning, which I'm fairly excited for.
Yeah, I guess somebody, speaking of people we aren't too familiar with, I feel like somebody we are familiar with, at least all three of us, is Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, I know.
The main person that this movie is about. So I guess, what were you guys going into the movie? Have you guys heard about this movie at all? Or, your background with Bruce Springsteen? Or was it just,
Well, I mean, I obviously have listened to some of the songs on the radio. I guess the ones everybody knows, Born in the USA and
Born to Run.
All that sort of stuff. So I definitely know who he is. I didn't even know there was a biopic about him before.
Yeah, it makes 4 for 4.
Yeah, 4 for 4 for movies that Logan did not hear about until we dragged him to the theater. It'll be the same next week, too.
Yeah.
Springsteen, I was familiar with. I mean, I'd heard his songs. I listened to about half of Nebraska in anticipation for the movie. I never got around to finishing it. I was interrupted halfway through, and then I never picked it back up. So I didn't listen to the whole album, but the hits are there. It's a good album. I do very much like it. The songs are very personal and unpredictable. And it feels like if you're going to pick a part of Bruce Springsteen's life to do a biopic on, this feels like the place to do it.
Yeah. And I guess as for me, my background with Bruce Springsteen, he's somebody that, on both sides of my family, I'm originally from Long Branch, New Jersey, which is right near where the Stone Pony is, where the Stone Pony in Asbury Park is where Bruce Springsteen became famous. That's the club that he performed at. And both sides of my family, are huge Bruce Springsteen fans. So, I grew up most of my childhood listening to Bruce Springsteen in the car, or whenever I was with family. Even more so, my grandma on my dad's side saw him in a concert, and he was walking surrounded by fans, and my grandma was trying to get his attention. And even this movie kicks off in this location, but my dad is originally from Freehold, New Jersey, and Springsteen is also from Freehold, New Jersey. And my grandma shouted, "Oh my God, my son's from Freehold!" And he turns around and had a 20-minute conversation with him, which I think is kind of cool to think about. So when they made a biopic on Bruce Springsteen, it was obviously something that was a movie I was known most about, especially me and my parents were talking about it, and especially Bruce Springsteen played by Jeremy Allen White. My parents, especially my mom, is a huge fan of Jeremy Allen White from The Bear, so it's one that's just this movie was definitely on my radar, at least movies coming out.
Yeah. This, when we did our most anticipated for the year, it made yours didn't even come close to making mine, and that's for one reason. I am not a big fan of prestige musical biopics.
Yeah.
Never really have been. Even the ones that aren't prestige, I don't particularly care for. John Carpenter's Elvis is probably the worst out of his filmography that I've seen. Just generally, when they try to tackle the life of a real person, they fail for a couple different reasons.
Yeah, but we'll get into them later on when we talk about at least our things with the movie. But at least for me, I've seen quite a few musical biopics. I can only count on one hand how many of them I actually think are great. The others of them I just think are kind of generic. I think you'll hear us say that a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of generic happening here and in musical biopics all across the board. I also didn't particularly like Maestro.
Yeah, I didn't like that movie at all.
So, yeah, do we have anything more to say about the production of this movie, or shall we move in to the scenes?
I say we move in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. It opens with Bruce Springsteen performing Born to Run on like a sold out concert tour.
Yeah.
It's like the last leg of his tour, presumably to promote an album. This is what musicians do. They go on tour. And this is super successful because Bruce Springsteen is a superstar, naturally. We all know that.
Yeah. And it's one that's just like Jeremy Allen White's vocals. He sounds like, you'll hear, I'm sure you'll hear us say this a lot, but he sounds very much like Bruce Springsteen. Great performer. Like, especially like when you're embodying somebody or like portraying somebody, it's just like you can tell Jeremy Allen White put a lot of work into sounding like Bruce Springsteen. And even more so, even before the Born to Run scene happens, it kicks off with a flashback that's done in black and white. Whenever it cuts to his past, it's done in black and white. And it kicks off, like I said earlier, in Freehold, New Jersey. And as for me watching it, I'm like, oh my God, that's where my dad was from. Yeah. And so like kind of seeing those sort of things, it was kind of cool for me to watch. And then they get, I forget the guy's name off the top of my head, but he played Al Capone in Boardwalk Empire. He was recently in Adolescence. I don't remember his name. He plays Springsteen's dad. I should have probably wrote this down beforehand, but
keep talking. I'll look it up. Yeah,
just like it's another nod that the movie does, that every time it cuts to Springsteen's past, it presents it as like a black and white. It presents it all in black and white, and then when it cuts to in color, that's like supposedly present day, at least when the movie's set. And the first of those is when he's singing "Born to Run," probably one of, if not his most famous song of all time.
Stephen Graham.
Stephen Graham, yes, Stephen Graham. That's who that guy was.
He was Detective Mulligan in the last two Venom movies.
Yeah, he was.
The opening flashback that's in black and white is young Bruce being sent into the bar to fetch his dad, who's pretty clearly a chronic alcoholic, not a good person. Fairly regular plot beat for a musical biopic to hit, a troubled childhood. This time the bad parent is the father. He's very clearly not a good person throughout the entire movie. That's the background that we get. But now we kind of pop in on Bruce's life when he's very, very popular. And one of the first scenes is him buying a new car, which was very, very heavily touted in the trailer for the one line that Springsteen delivers, which is the car salesman says, "Oh, you have the money to buy this car because you're a superstar. I know who you are." And then Jeremy Allen White says, "Well, that makes one of us." Whoa, guys. Crazy.
Identity
crisis. And also that car you will see throughout the entire movie.
Oh, yeah.
There's like so many scenes in this movie where he gets in that same car and drives it down a certain stretch of the road.
Yeah. He's in that car a lot.
Yeah. Isn't it cool? Look how cool the car is.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably where they blew half this movie's budget, so. It's a nice car. I'm not going to lie. It's a nice car.
Yeah.
The Jeremy Strong character is John Landau, who is Bruce Springsteen's manager, agent, something. He starts off kind of just like in a good friend role. I do not like how his character evolves in the rest of this movie, and I'll explain why when we get there, but it becomes incredibly obnoxious the way that John and Bruce interact and also the way that they interact with other people.
Yeah, and it seems to be like 2 for 2, I guess, Jeremy Strong playing like the side to whoever the main character is supposed to be, with Sebastian Stan as Donald Trump and with Jeremy Allen White as Bruce Springsteen.
It's true. Yeah. He that's his role as the fast talking agent, manager, friend, mentor kind of role that kind of bails the main character out of everything, essentially. So Bruce Springsteen goes and performs at the Stone Pony, as we discussed. And outside he meets an estranged classmate who was in gym class with him in high school. if I were to meet anybody who I had gym class with in high school, I don't think I would recognize them, but I guess, it's Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
And he introduces Bruce to his sister, Faye Romano. I do believe that name was changed for the movie. I don't think her name was actually Faye in real life, but that's her name in the movie. Faye Romano.
Yeah.
And Bruce initially says, "Oh, I'm dating someone. I shouldn't, whatever, blah, blah, blah." You know with 100% certainty they're going to get together. Not even by the end of this movie. By 20 minutes into this movie. Like, this is minute 10, minute 20, they're together. So it's fairly obvious. And then we kind of get the driving force behind the movie, which is what's next for Bruce Springsteen? What's his next album? The label expects a hit because Born to Run is such a big hit, so he needs to put out a couple of hit singles. I believe that the framing is that he just released his first top 10 single, and now he needs more, like ever growing, ever upwards, ever onwards.
Yeah.
And he's kind of not feeling it. He really wants to settle down, and ostensibly the idea is that he's dealing with his past traumas at this point in his life. He ends up catching a movie on TV called Badlands, and it's about this guy who takes his girlfriend around the U.S. and just kills people, essentially. He's a serial killer. I've never seen the movie, but I've read the synopsis for the podcast.
Yeah.
And that gets Springsteen onto researching the serial killer Charles Starkweather. I don't know if he's real, but essentially the song Nebraska off of the album Nebraska was originally called Starkweather, based off of this serial killer guy.
Yeah. And that's really what the whole movie does. Like, it's really him sitting down and, like, reflecting on not only his life experiences, but also things that he's coming across both in present day as well as his past life. And, they use the different filmmaking styles to distinguish that. To where it's like, you see him writing songs down in a notebook, and then you see, like, him walking around and seeing all these other sort of things as well.
Yeah, there's a scene in which he's writing down, like, track list for Nebraska, and it's just the track list for Nebraska. It's like, okay, cool. He knows what he's writing on some level, except that some of those, they're called the Colts Row singles, were moved into a later thing and they ended up propelling him to stardom in the more formal sense, as opposed to Nebraska, which, although it charted and was really popular, wasn't boppable necessarily.
Right.
Bruce Springsteen and Faye Romano are together, officially, romantically, and Springsteen takes Romano to the Carousel, a fun little, like, amusement park. He like lights it up at night, and it, like, starts to turn on, and all the rides are going, and she's like, "I hope we don't do anything wrong," and he's like, "Well, I can't do anything wrong. I'm Bruce Springsteen."
Yeah, which was kind of like, I don't know, this whole movie kind of felt like a walk down memory lane for me, because, like, when they went on the carousel, like, just last year, even, like, throughout my past life, like, I've actually been on that before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think the boardwalk they were walking around, it was a place that I used to walk around. My grandma lives not too far away from that, so, like, we would always, like, drive down to, like, Long Branch Asbury Park, or, like, down that way, just walk around and, like, see, like, just walk by the ocean and stuff like that. So, like, it was kind of cool to see that, especially, like, when they're outside the Stone Pony and when he's performing there. It's like, it's an actual place I've been outside to many times. So, like, that was a nice little touch, but I feel like on a story level, I can see for a lot of people, they don't probably have that sort of background. So, like, I guess for me, where I grew up in, it's like, it was kind of cool to see that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons that this movie doesn't connect with me so much. They film everything on location. It's real places.
Yeah, and I think that's great.
But I've never been there.
Yeah.
So I don't really get it.
Yeah, most people haven't. And I understand. Like, maybe that's how they coded my response towards the movie as a whole. Because I feel like my biggest thing, and we've kind of hinted at it already, to where it's like, it does play it way too safe. Obviously, like, he's in a rise to stardom. He's in a rut. He meets a girl. He does something that eventually becomes one of the biggest moments of his career. And it's like, it's a very standard musical biopic template that's been done many times. And done here once again with a director, Scott Cooper, that's someone that a lot of his other movies, I think, are just fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is also based on a book called Deliver Me From Nowhere. That's where the title comes from. I don't know. I've heard the book is terrible. I have a very good friend who does Oscar predictions and basically gears a lot of their life around the Oscars and award season. And they read all of the likely candidates for the best adapted screenplay, all of the plays and all of the books that these things are based off of. He read Deliver Me From Nowhere. He hated it. I haven't read any other book review for Deliver Me From Nowhere. That's all I know.
Yeah, because the only book I knew that exists about his life was my mom read a book by him that was just called Born to Run. It was written by Springsteen himself. I didn't know what it was, but I was just like, when I heard that they were adapting Deliver Me From Nowhere, I was like, I never heard of that book before.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't know who wrote it. I don't know who it was by. And it's something that's just like, if you're going to tell a story, like you said earlier, if you're going to tell a story about Springsteen, I think the album Nebraska is a way to do that.
Right.
But I think there's also another thing to where when you watch the movie, it is about him making the album Nebraska. But I think that's also kind of the issue. Bruce Springsteen, at least from my knowledge, doesn't have a clear rise and fall in his career. So there's not really much where you go like, this is the clear rise to stardom. He falls so hard and he comes back. It's just like, sure, that side of thing is a little bit like template, like cliche-ish. But in Bruce Springsteen's life, like there's not really a whole lot there to really draw out. And I feel like in this movie you can tell there was he's just writing down songs. He's driving in his car. He's seeing this girl. He's walking around the boardwalk. And it's just like, it's very like beat for beat. And then by the time the movie wraps up, it wraps up in the stereotypical way where it puts text on the screen of what happened to him afterwards.
To a degree, that it does feel like the Smashing Machine in terms of how to get a story out of someone's real life. Like, as much as it was a story that you couldn't really glean much out of in terms of a story, it somehow still felt like a template.
Yeah, and I guess kind of adding on to your point about the Smashing Machine, which one, if you haven't seen our episode about the Smashing Machine, you should go listen to it. It's really good. No bias there, but I guess in terms of this movie, like there is a little bit of like, there's a lot of scenes that kind of feel like, you know, he's in a car, he's meeting a girl, he's at the diner, and I feel like there is more of a narrative here because he is building up towards him making an album. So I feel like with the Smashing Machine, it just felt like a lot of scenes from Mark Kerr's life that don't amount too much. So I feel like at least this one, you get some glimpse into Bruce Springsteen's mental state and his problems. You get some glimpse into how the album was created, but I think ultimately that was the issue. It's not fully explored, and I feel like some of the things they leave because they're, I think, trying to make it so formulaic and cram it through a specific template to where it's like you lose some of the things that I feel like this movie kind of hints at, to where like, you know, him having him having an issue with his mental health is like something that's just like that can be really, really poignant. And they don't really do a whole lot. There's scenes that hint at it. There's a scene towards the end where he's sitting in a therapist chair, and then it jumps forward to him seeing his dad again, which are both well done scenes, but they're not. Or like he has a panic attack at a fair, but you don't really explore it a whole lot. It's there, but you don't really explore it too much to that sense.
Yeah, and to that point, this movie feels like it's about someone's life.
Yeah.
But what's special about Bruce Springsteen's life?
Right, that's kind of what I was saying earlier.
In the Smashing Machine, you kind of have the sense that Mark Kerr's life is special because every other scene he's punching a guy in the face and then getting punched right in return. He's fighting, it's active, he's at least doing something.
Yeah.
What sets Springsteen apart is that he's a musician, but what that means to this movie is that he writes songs on a notepad. And that's not exciting, that's not interesting. And they're just not showing a lot of what makes Bruce Springsteen's life actually interesting. This is somebody's movie, but at the end of the day, it's not a very interesting person's movie.
Yeah, kind of like what I was saying earlier. There's not a clear rise and there's not a clear fall in his career. It's just something there's just something that happened to him. Like Nebraska was this big album. Oh, a movie, how that got made is inherently something that's like, okay, cool. But like the rest of the movie, you kind of watch, you're like, okay, cool, great. Good for him.
Right. So moving on to what I have in my notes as the beginning of Act 2, Bruce enlists a friend who we're introduced to named Mikey. This is the second Jeremy Allen White project to include a character named Mikey.
Yeah, and surprisingly played by Paul Walter Hauser, which
Yeah,
I had no idea he was in this. I had no idea he was in this movie. He's been in a bunch, both with Fantastic Four, The Naked Gun, as well as this movie. Like Paul Walter Hauser is having quite the year this year, I will say.
I completely missed Paul Walter Hauser in Fantastic Four First Steps.
The Mole Man.
Yeah, I only realized after the fact that he was in it. But yes, he plays Mikey, who is Bruce's technician, mechanic. He brings a 4-track into Bruce's house so that Bruce can record a demo on cassette for the Jeremy Strong character to hear so that he could give something to the label. Now, of course, the problem is that instead of giving the label Born to Run, he gives them Nebraska, which is, again, not especially boppable. And then he meets with Jeremy Strong's character in like a diner. That diner, they got a lot of mileage out of it.
Yeah. New Jersey's the diner state.
The
So
diner
obviously,
state,
you said it in a diner.
There's a lot of diners.
Yeah.
So he goes to.
Sorry, it's the Garden State, but also like nicknamed like also it's like it's kind of a thing towards the diner state. Sorry.
If you've been to New Jersey, every other building is a diner.
Yeah.
So he sits with the Jeremy Strong character. The Jeremy Strong character gives him a screenplay called Born in the USA, written by, I want to say, Paul Schrader.
I think it was something along that
I think
lines,
that's who they were saying it was.
Yeah.
I remember they said, oh, it's the writer of Taxi Driver, I think. And that was Paul Schrader. But the point being that they want Bruce not only to write a song for the movie, but also to star in the movie. And if you know anything about Bruce Springsteen, you know that that's Born in the USA. That's his song, Born in the USA.
Yeah.
Great song. Not on Nebraska.
Yeah. It is a great scene in the movie. Like, there is a build-up to where he does sit down with a band and records the song. And again, Jeremy Allen White sounds so much like Bruce Springsteen.
He really does.
Like, yeah.
Like, especially during the Born in the USA, when he sang that, it really transformed him in my eyes. He stopped looking like Carmi to me, and that more like Bruce Springsteen in that scene.
Yeah.
Because like beforehand, I could only see him as Carmi before, and it was so jarring to see. But I think the way that Jeremy Allen White performs in this movie is it really gives off Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
I think he did a really great job of that.
Yeah, and especially even like as the movie goes on, like obviously like with like the hairpiece choices and his vocals, and it's just like you can see like it felt to me like Bruce Springsteen. It didn't feel like it was just Jeremy Allen White walking around. And especially like considering that sometimes it's hit or miss whether an actor will actually do the singing themselves. And in this one, I think it's one of the absolute best cases where like he sounds like, so doesn't sound like a broken record, but like he sounds scaringly accurate to even fool Bruce Springsteen the first time he saw a clip from this movie. So it's like, Taron Egerton did his own singing for Rocket Man, and then for Bohemian Rhapsody, Rami Malek did like ad lib. He didn't actually sing for the movie.
Yeah,
Did he sing for all the Bruce Springsteen songs that were featured?
As far as I could tell, yes.
Yeah, like all the ones like he was like Born to Run and Born in the USA.
Background.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. He probably recorded covers of them for the ones that are just playing like on the tape.
But either way, like it's incredible, and that scene was incredible. Like the fact that he's like sitting in a chair, and like you've seen Jeremy Strong's reaction, and you see the band playing along with him, and it's just like, I don't know, a song again. Like for me, like a song I've heard many times. It's just like it was really cool to see some of that stuff like play out. To where it's like I have memories of hearing that song in the car, and like my parents talking about Springsteen, so it was kind of cool to see an actor that both my parents like do that. So it's like in a sense it kind of hit me a little bit. At least with those certain parts of the movie. Yeah.
And the next scene in the movie kind of sets up a formula that basically every other sequence plays out to the letter of, which is something happens that's usually striking, shocking, or unconventional. Bruce Springsteen deals with it for about a scene or two.
Yeah.
Then it gets resolved because this is the first answering machine scene. The answering machine, they get a lot of mileage out of it. But essentially, on the answering machine, he gets a call from his mother who's sobbing and crying. And he picks up the phone because you could do that back when you let it ring. And you could still pick it up. The line was still hot. And as it turns out, his father ran away, got fired, got drunk, all three of these things. And Bruce needs to fly to LA to deal with him, I guess. And so he flies to LA to deal with him. His mom says that he's in Chinatown. Bruce finds him in Chinatown, which suggests that he didn't move for 6 hours. But he's there. Bruce finds him. Bruce brings him home.
It's a weird transition, like from him, from wherever he was.
It felt again. That's where the template thing felt like to me. It felt like there had to be something that he had to answer to, because at that point it's just like it was coming after like he sang one of his most famous songs, and it's just like, okay, what can you add that has conflict here? And it's just like.
You just blew out your ears.
Yeah.
And you hope you're happy.
Blew out your ears. Sorry about that. But there's also a sense that's just like, I could feel the template all over this thing, where it's like that scene, especially the way it plays out, it's just like, it just feels like they had to put a sense of conflict for him to deal with. And they kind of hint at it, like with the scenes in black and white. They do show his dad, like, training him how to fight, and like his dad arguing with his mother.
Then he hits him in the back with a baseball. Well,
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Bruce
Where he hits him
Springsteen
at the
hits his
baseball.
dad with the baseball bat.
As a kid, he defended his mother by hitting his dad in the back with a baseball bat because his father would like force him to quote unquote practice fighting,
Yeah.
which is, pretty clearly abusive behavior, and then it results in violent tendencies. What that means for Bruce, no idea.
Yeah.
It's like a movie that tries to explain the same exact thing that Nebraska tried to explain.
Yeah,
And it's
again,
I
like,
could just
there's-
listen to Nebraska and have saved an hour.
It's again
Yeah.
with the template thing. Like,
Yeah.
just put an abusive parent in it. Like, I guess it's a real thing he experienced for the biopic aspect of it, but
It's not
it
that.
just still feels template-y.
Yeah, I don't want to be disrespectful or insensitive to
Oh,
Bruce
totally not,
Springsteen,
yeah.
who
Yeah, I don't
I'm
either.
sure actually went through this, and it's horrible and it's awful. It's just not done well in the movie.
Yeah, it's where it's like there's hints of things, but they don't go fully explored.
Yeah.
So like there's hints of him and his father. There's scenes with them together. The last shot is of him and his father, which is like, I mean, you can see the emotion on both the actors' faces, both Jeremy Allen White and Stephen Graham. But also at the same time, it's not really fully explored. Like when he's writing Nebraska, it's like he kind of pulls some of that, but he also kind of doesn't.
Mhm.
So where it's like if they had spent more on that, or they spent more on like him having anxiety or him actually getting inspiration for the songs, to where it's just like if they veered away from the template and did something that's just like maybe if it wasn't based on a book and it was based on like an actual like how do we tell the story in the most effective way possible, I feel like that's the best version of this movie, which is ultimately kind of the thing that the big problem I will say, even things that we've talked about, that's just like I can see the better version of the story. Not that like individual pieces I think are quite interesting, but they're not fully explored, to where it's just like you get like it's almost like a demo song to a better, like it's almost like the demo to a better song. Not to kind of go along with the movie, but it feels like you're listening to the demo tape of a great song.
And it's ironic that you say that because all the songs on Nebraska are demo tapes.
Right, yeah. That's why I kind of thought of that, where it's like watching this movie feels like the demo, like the demo reel of a great song, to where it's like parts of it are great, parts of it are really interesting, but the entire thing as a whole, it's like you can feel like it needs some tweaking a little bit to fully become great.
The movie is made in such a way that with every scene, it's reminding the audience, hey, by the way, there is some warts in this story about Bruce Springsteen. There is some bad things that happened in his life, but they are aware that people that come to the theater that are there for Springsteen don't really want to see that. They want to see Bruce Springsteen being awesome and performing and writing music and being a rebel from New Jersey who just doesn't care how the music industry perceives him. And it's like, it just doesn't make for an interesting story.
Yeah. And I think we'll kind of say this a little bit even after when we give our final thoughts, but like the musical biopic genre is inherently one that's going to draw different crowds.
Yeah.
If you find out that your favorite artist is Hollywood's doing a musical biopic of your favorite audience or favorite artist, excuse me, you're more likely going to show up to that one, to where it's like, Springsteen is one that caught my eye just because of the things that went through. Like my parents are probably the target audience for this movie, especially my mom. But as for us that like we didn't grow up with this kind of music, it's not one that would appeal to us. And that's not defending the movie at all, but it's one that's just like different crowds draw different people. So there are some people I can imagine that are going to go and probably liking this one, and there are some people that are going to watch it as just a movie going and be like, what was this? Like, why did I watch that?
I think also, for me, since I didn't listen to Nebraska or anything before this or after this, it's kind of the sort of movie that asked me to do my homework beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I'm sure there are some things in the lyrics of Nebraska that would suggest something alluding to his past or what he went through, but I didn't see that, like, at all. Not even, like, what they included in the movie.
Right. It is kind of like he writes Dark Weather and then he performs it, and you're in the crowd is supposed to be like, oh my god, that's Nebraska. But it's like, if you don't know what Nebraska is, that's obviously not going to be a reaction.
It just goes
Yeah.
into my head.
Or it's
Right.
like in your sense, it's just like, oh, he's playing music.
Right.
But if you know more about Springsteen, it kind of resonates with those people a little bit more. Not saying that it's differently executed. Like the movie's like obviously executed the same way, but
Right.
like the musical biopic genre, it's like different people will take certain things out. Like if like there's some people that absolutely love the movie Bohemian Rhapsody. I really like Queen. I didn't care for the movie very much, but it's also a sense that's just like I feel like these types of movies bring out different types of crowds. So
Yeah. Yeah. And one of my core questions coming out of the movie was, why didn't I just listen to Nebraska?
mm-hmm.
And if this movie doesn't have anything to say that Nebraska didn't already say, I don't see much of a reason for it to exist beyond getting the Springsteen crowd into theaters.
Yeah.
So he goes to California to rescue his dad. He brings his dad
back to the regularly scheduled program.
He brings his dad home, and then his dad goes to the hospital, and then he goes back to New Jersey. It's very anticlimactic.
Yeah.
And
yeah, again, like hinted at but not explored. It just happens.
It's supposed to allude to like when the first scene in the movie when
right.
Yeah, you know, his dad's in the bar in the opening scene, and his dad's in the opening bar in this scene.
Again, they don't really do anything with it.
Right. It's just an image that's there that doesn't tie into much of anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And especially the way that they treat his father at the end of the movie. Wow. I do not like it. It does not resonate with me at all. In fact, it resonates negatively with me. And I'll explain why when we get there. He records Born in the USA. It's a great scene. That's probably my favorite scene in the movie is them recording Born to Run.
Yeah, it sounds like identical, like so scaringly accurate.
Yeah, like it's great. But they kind of undercut it because at the very end, there's a whole scene in which Jeremy Strong and the audio technician is like, wow, that was great. That was a good song. We like that song. We like Born in the USA. It's a good song. You do too, because it's Springsteen. And it's like, okay, we get it. Move along. Like, tell us what the conflict is. And the conflict is that Springsteen doesn't want Born in the USA on Nebraska. Instead, he wants all of his demo reel, like his demo tape. He wants all of those songs on Nebraska, nothing else. He doesn't want his face on the cover. He doesn't want a press tour. He doesn't want to do any concerts or any shows. He doesn't want to do any sort of advertising for it. He only wants those demo tapes, which he also ran through an echo machine that made it like... gave
atmospheric.
Like atmospheric. He says like Elvis's old music was ran through that same machine.
Mm-hmm.
And you might think that this demand is completely unreasonable. How could you possibly expect that to happen? It's terrifying. We have no press, no concerts, no nothing for these songs that can't play on the radio, and you don't even want to put Born in the USA on there. You don't want to release it as a single. How could it possibly be?
All right, let's just give it to him.
Yeah, let's just give it to him, yeah.
That entire, plot is basically one line of dialogue, and then Jeremy Strong sits down to basically inform the label of, hey, this is how Springsteen wants it to be, so this is how it's going to be.
Yeah, again, that's where the template comes in again, because it's like, it's obviously, it's something that actually did happen, so how do you get there? You just have to, it's just like, that's what annoys me about it. It's just like, because they actually did it, they imply in the movie that this is how they got it done.
There's absolutely no conflict about any of the demands that Bruce Springsteen makes.
Yeah.
No pushback.
No pushback either.
But the problem is, it feels like the movie thinks that there is. And I'll explain why at the very end. There's a little line at the end of the movie that pisses me off to no end, and I'm sure I will have an angry rant about that one.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait either.
I know exactly what.
Cover your ears.
But
no, I'm kidding. Don't do that.
Everything that Springsteen wants is handed to him on a silver platter, and everybody in his life is bending over backwards to meet his expectations, including a person who we haven't talked about at all through the last 20 minutes. Faye. Remember Faye? Remember his girlfriend Faye, who has a kid named Haley that we see once or twice? Remember her? Yeah. As it turns out, all that time that Bruce has been doing things that don't involve her, he has actually been completely cutting her out of his life. Not picking up the phone, not going to see her, not talking to her at all. Faye has to go to his shows. She has to go to the Stone Pony to try to see if she could catch him backstage, and then Springsteen stopped showing up there to avoid her. And they have this confrontation in a diner.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, Jeremy Allen White playing as an artist that perfects his work while ignoring his love interest. Wow, that kind of sounds familiar.
Yeah, and you know what? In an establishment that serves food, I don't know if I've ever seen that plot before. It's the bear. We're talking about the bear. That's the plot of the bear.
Yeah.
So he completely cuts Faye out of his life, and Faye confronts him one last time to say, hey, you are being a complete and utter asshole. Because he is. And she's saying, okay, well, I wanted to believe in you. I wanted to be with you. I thought you weren't going to go Hollywood, but you did go Hollywood. And now you just don't care, and you're running away from your problems. And so how does Bruce Springsteen react to that really raw confrontation where he meets this person that he's completely screwed over. And
he doesn't get locked in a fridge, don't worry.
Yeah, he does not get locked in a fridge.
He meets up with this person he's completely screwed over. She explains literally in dialogue, very frankly, every single thing he did wrong. His reaction is to move to LA and run away from the problem. Completely tone deaf from this movie. Totally. Yeah. I don't see how you could watch that scene and be like, you know what? I think that this woman is completely insane. And again, just like Smashing Machine, she's the only woman in the movie. The only one. And it's the one that Bruce Springsteen gets to fuck over and then move to LA to avoid her, to run away from her. And we don't see any repercussions for that. We just see Springsteen gets a happy ending right after destroying this woman's life by, giving her what she deserves and then completely abandoning her. And we know from the beginning of this movie, from when they get together, that Faye is not a rich woman. She is a single mother living with her parents. She's clearly not making a lot of money. She even says she works at the diner just because it's the only money that she can get. Bruce Springsteen sneaks her into the carnival. He's clearly got a lot of money. He has this fancy new car and all of these amenities, and he just leaves this woman in the dust, despite the fact that she was willing to put up with him and stay with him for however many months he was holed in his room writing Nebraska and just completely ignoring her.
Yeah, it's a beat in so many of these biopics that I think it's just so, like, we get it. Like, why you keep doing this? And in this movie, they do it again. And it's just, like, so many other ones. It's just, like, they have the one woman and then the artist does something to, like, fuck her over. And it's just, like, why even bother? Like, at that point, like, why even bother? Like, regardless if that even happened, it's just, like, it's something that's just been done so many times. In this movie, it does it again. Like, she's barely a presence in the movie. And then when she leaves, it's just like, I wasn't asking where she went.
And, I mean, like, and they just don't... They have it there as a beat to say, look, we dealt with this really difficult concept of this musician that you all know and all love abandoning his girlfriend. That's a really heavy concept. But they don't actually deal with it. They just do it for a scene, and they're like, okay, we fulfilled the requirement.
Yeah, which is where my demo tape analogy comes into, where it feels like the demo reel of an actual, like, arc of a movie, to where it's like, you need to either draw this out, you need to, like, iron the kinks of it, expand it, cut it, do whatever you need to.
I will say, the treatment of Faye is better than the treatment of Dawn in the Smashing Machine.
Oh my god, so much better. She wasn't locked in a loony bin or something, wherever they got going on at the end of the Smashing Machine.
If you've seen our review of the Smashing Machine, we're going to spoil the ending, so if you haven't seen it, skip this part. At the end of the Smashing Machine, Dawn Staples, who is Mark Kerr's girlfriend, and by the end of the movie they're married, she freaks out at him because he's so well-adjusted and such a good person because he went to rehab.
He's not.
No, he's not. He's a complete psychopath. And basically the way that they decide to resolve that story is by carting her off to a mental asylum in a police car.
So frustrating.
It's really frustrating.
One of the most frustrating scenes of 2025. Like, the whole year. That's one of the most frustrating scenes. This is not as bad as that. It's still not good. It's still token female representation, and it's still completely tone deaf to what anybody watching the movie is thinking.
And it's not even the most frustrating scene in the film.
Are we finally ready to get there?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
So, the movie ends with Bruce Springsteen having moved to California, going to therapy. There's one scene in which the therapist says, "Tell me as little or as much as you want about why you're here today." Bruce Springsteen breaks down crying.
He chooses the little option.
He
jumps 10 months later, and we do not get to hear.
Yeah, I mean, well acted by Jeremy Allen White there, I will say.
Jeremy Allen White's a great actor. If you've seen his monologue at the end of season 1 of The Bear, you know that he's a great actor and he can pull that off.
Yeah.
Not great writing, though.
Yeah.
Lack thereof.
10 months later, he's doing a concert. He meets his parents. He forgives his father, which I don't like, but
Sits on his lap.
Yeah, I'm kind of moving to something here. We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
And
I mean, again, well acted by Jeremy Allen White and Stephen Graham. It is a touching scene, at least in terms of acting wise, but, like, it's one that's just, like, it's so underdeveloped to where it happens just for the sake of it happening because they have to hit that beat.
The relationship between those two people is not complex enough to warrant that scene and not complex enough to make that scene work.
Right.
Instead, it just reads like token templated forgiveness to bring this movie to a conclusion. What I really am upset about is the ending coda of this movie. Most biopics end with a coda that explain what happens afterwards and where they are now.
Yeah, it's where at first, it says, Nebraska was such this big hit.
Right.
And
Nebraska had no advertisements, no press tour, no singles. It charted number 3 even still.
Yeah, and you think that stuff I was like, okay, that seems pretty standard until
right. And then it says okay, he takes his pop tracks onto a different album and that's turned him into a superstar and I really want to quote verbatim, but I probably will mess up a couple words. It says, Bruce Springsteen continued to battle with depression, but never again without help or hope. What the fuck?
I get what you're trying. I get the message they were trying to make, but why would you say all that in text? Didn't we just watch a whole movie
of him getting help?
Hope. And Bruce Springsteen spends the entire movie running to Jeremy Strong's character and to Faye, being like, "Hey, I need so much help. The record label won't listen to me about my fucking songs. They don't want to put them out. I'm going through something so awful and terrible that we don't ever see. All we see is that he locks himself in a room, writes a couple songs, and ignores his girlfriend. He has every single person in the movie. There is not a single person in the movie that is not on Bruce Springsteen's side. Even the record label boss, who is supposed to be against him and doesn't want to put out his album. It takes one conversation from the Jeremy Strong character to be like, okay, I guess we're gonna do it this way because he's Bruce Springsteen, he's the best. And it's like, what do you mean he didn't have help or hope? This is the least compelling depression narrative of all time. It's like
depression.
Right? It's just we get nothing. He did not have help or hope. He actively pushed these people away from him.
Yeah, because it's not fully developed. Like we kept saying.
It's not fully developed. It's not even partially developed. If you want to sell the narrative that he was without help, or at the very least that he didn't know how to look for help,
then don't give him the help.
Don't include the 99 million scenes of Jeremy Strong being like, okay, we're going to do exactly your artistic vision. He goes to a facility. He ships out to a separate facility to grind the vinyl exactly how he wants with shallow grooves. They even say like, oh, but this is going to be an active detriment to the listener because they're going to have to turn the volume all the way up on their record players. And Jeremy Strong says, well, it's too bad because this is what Bruce Springsteen wants. And he refers him multiple times to a therapist to get professional help before the end of the movie. And we don't ever get the sense for any legitimate reason why Bruce Springsteen doesn't have, quote, help or hope. And it ends with him having actively hurt the lives of someone else, which suggests a couple of things. Suggests that either the movie doesn't think that Faye was at all important in his life, despite the fact that she stuck with him, not the other way around, or the idea that because he had depression, it's okay that he completely fucked over this woman, the one woman in the movie, might I add, and that this blameless male protagonist is the guy who we should be rooting for regardless. Or worse, the fact that he had depression was the reason that he hurt Faye. The idea that if he meets some other woman who is equally as nice in California, that he wouldn't ruin her because he had help and hope now, instead of the idea that, I don't know, maybe the woman that he loved and the woman that loved him back very much could have been his help or hope in these scenes. We don't get any of that. There's nothing to sell the idea that Bruce Springsteen is, at any point in this movie, hopeless or helpless. And the idea that they're trying to frame it as such, brings this movie down a solid star for me. Like, legitimately, it's that bad.
Mm. Yeah, well, very well said. I guess now that the eruption of Pompeii has passed. No, I'm kidding. That was a joke. That was a joke.
Every episode has one of these.
Yeah.
I'm always ranting about something.
Yeah,
That's
I guess
just
now
what
that we've broken it down scene by scene, what were our thoughts on the movie as a whole?
I hated it.
Yeah,
Stars out of 6.93.
One.
yeah, 6.9 out of 10. Is that what you were doing?
No, how many stars would you give out of 6.9?
How
Or
many?
do whatever you want.
Do your own rating system. We
Yeah.
have our own rating system.
I guess
here
for
on the
me,
Post Credits Podcast.
I guess following the 5-star thing,
Yeah.
I would say for me it's a solid, like, it's teetering between like a 3 and a 2.5. For me, watching this movie, it felt like a walk down memory lane in a sense, because Springsteen was a guy that's like such an important piece of my family, and it's one that's just like that, the where it's set and everything. It's just like that's something where I've been to many times. As for the movie itself, it's like the most bland, follow this template, doesn't explore anything that well. To where every time I watch this, like every time I'm thinking about this movie, and like even when I first watched it, it's like I can imagine the much better version of this one. And I'm wondering if the story about him making Nebraska is one that like maybe don't adapt the book, maybe like take some things that actually did happen to him, and then tell a story through that, to where you can really explore some of those things. So where if you're copying it through a book, and especially like copying the template of a book and a template of a standard musical biopic, you lose some of the things that I think is a little bit more important. To where I feel like there's a lot of great things in here. I think performances wise, Jeremy Allen White and Jeremy Strong are great, but it's one that's just like, aside from watching it in theaters and getting like an old sense of nostalgia in a way, it hasn't really stuck with me since, unfortunately.
This movie has stuck with me, and every time I think about it, I get more and more angry at how anybody thought that this was the narrative to tell about Bruce Springsteen's life. It's a movie that understands that biopic is a Frankenstein of a genre. It's a zombie at this point. It is a walking corpse. It was airplaned 3 years ago when Weird Al Yankovic did his movie, and we're still going. Every year we get a prestige biopic. There's nothing more to say. These templates that they're using become overly rote, and this movie understands that, or maybe it doesn't understand that, but it thinks it does. It thinks it knows why people don't like musical biopics, and essentially says they don't like musical biopics because we don't mention that these people have depression or mental illnesses. Not that we don't show it, that we don't mention it, and it thinks it can get away with that. And I am not going to let it get away with that, because it's legitimately awful. Out of 5, I give it a 1. It's the only thing saving it is the performance of Jeremy Allen White and Jeremy Strong. And even Jeremy Strong becomes a shadow of himself by the end of this movie, because the character that he's playing is just utterly uninteresting.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly fair. I mean that's certainly fair.
Yeah, someone who is so much farther disconnected to Bruce Springsteen than you are.
Yeah.
I think for me, having little to nothing, only knowing him as that one guy who wrote Born in the USA and that one Christmas song that comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's really nothing redeeming in terms of nostalgia except for the Born in the USA scene. That is it for me. And again, the reason I haven't really said much about this film really tells a lot more than everything I had to say. It's forgettable for me. And as much as I have the same grievances that you do about the depression thing and him not, or getting help and all that, it's just nothing for me.
Yeah.
And
And
forgettable.
yeah, and for me, it does follow the pattern of Scott Cooper's career, that he is just as average and bland and mediocre of a filmmaker as you can get. Like, he's just a guy, like, when they announced that Scott Cooper was doing this movie, that's why it wasn't higher on my most anticipated list, because it inherently, like, the musical biopic genre is not one I'm too well versed in, but, like, again, when they make a musical biopic about someone you're really pretty well, it's one that's just like, it's like, oh, like, I'm curious to see how that turns out. And then they announced Scott Cooper, and I was like, I don't know if this is the guy. And watching this movie, he's probably not the guy to do that, or maybe this
Yeah.
just wasn't the book to adapt, or maybe this wasn't the story to tell. But I don't know. The more I've sat on it, it hasn't really stuck with me a whole lot. I'm probably gonna sit on a 2.5 right now, which really, it was really unfortunate for me. But I don't hate it. If someone told me they liked it, I get it. If someone told me they didn't, obviously you told me you didn't, I understand why. It's just, it's there. It doesn't really make much of a mark on me personally.
As much as I really can't think of a rating to give to this. Like, obviously below 3, but I'm going to give it a 1.5 out of 5 on this solely because I like Jeremy Allen White and I love The Bear. And that's kind of who I saw him as before. You know, he sung the songs.
He did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's just a complete lack of self-awareness. This movie is trying to present itself as a warts and all biopic, and when it is warts and all, it's actively damaging to the character of Bruce Springsteen, but it doesn't realize that it is. It doesn't realize that the character that we're following is not a good guy, that he's a whiny, annoying baby about everything, and the movie even treats it as if nothing that he does is his fault. And the movie thinks it's being smart and being really, really subversive by including those flashback scenes and by mentioning the fact that there's mental distress happening in his head, but it's not actually showing any of that. It's not actually, through the movie, showing anything interesting about Bruce Springsteen's character, and it continues all of the worst genre tropes of the musical biopic genre. The things that they're doing in this movie are not interesting. When it's not about him and his music, it's about him being a terrible person. And when it's about him and his music, it's not fun to watch. And it just continues doing the things that every musical biopic does. There's the scene in which there's the song that we all know, and then there's the scene where he abandons his girlfriend, and we're supposed to forget about the only woman that ever existed in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so many biopics do that. So many. And I don't understand why more people aren't alert to that, aren't aware of that, aren't looking and saying, hey, are we sure that we couldn't have, if anything, just a second woman in this movie? You know, it feels to me like such a cliche, to the point that when I see a woman in a biopic, I'm scared for her. And that's never how you want to portray your protagonist, unless you're trying to do a character study, but they're not, because Bruce Springsteen is going out and doing tours for this movie and doing campaigning for this movie. He is alive, right? And he has a reputation to keep alive. And so it's really, really hard to do a biopic about a person that, like, is real and exists. And just, you know that you can't do that much on him because he's going to get mad at you if you do it. And especially if he's funding it, especially if he's producing it. I don't think Bruce Springsteen produced this, but...
Yeah, I don't think so either, but like...
Queen produced Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, and you can tell if
the
you watch that
Beatles.
movie.
The Beatles are producing Sam Mendes' Beatles project.
Yeah, or at least the ones that are still standing.
Yes, the two Beatles. It's still plural.
Still plural. Yeah,
but,
that's true.
Soon enough it'll be the Beatle. And so, just the only biopic that I think really got that right that I've seen is The Social Network. Because The Social Network definitely did not get the okay from Mark Zuckerberg, and Mark Zuckerberg was in fact very upset about that movie's existence because it portrayed him in such a negative light, but they just didn't care. And that made for a really, really good movie and a really, really interesting character study. In this movie, Bruce Springsteen seems like he cares, and at the very least, it seems like the team behind this movie cares about Bruce Springsteen and his image, and so, yeah, I don't care, is what it amounts to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's ironic because they fail so miserably at making him seem
right
how they wanted him to seem.
It's a musical biopic thing.
It is totally, but that doesn't mean I have to like it.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
So yeah, let's wrapping it up. We've given our ratings. Letterboxd plugs. I am Threnv on Letterboxd. That's THRNV. I probably have my review of Springsteen up and some other movies I've watched. You should go check that out. I think I just put up my review of John Carpenter's Starman. So check that out if you're interested.
Yeah, my Letterboxd plug is MJ Spiegel, all lowercase. I'm not as active on Letterboxd as I once was, or at least as Jesse is. But I do occasionally write reviews up for movies that I see. I'm a little bit behind right now, so you won't see like too many from me at the moment. But I do update it frequently. If you're interested in hearing more of my thoughts outside of the podcast, feel free to check that out.
And I still haven't seen any comments to make me a letterbox. So
guys, if you want Logan to have a Letterboxd comment, one comment will push him over the edge.
Yeah, one comment we will force him to download it.
Yeah, and if you
a letter.
Yeah,
a written letter.
Send us physical mail at we don't have a PO box. That being said, if you leave us a comment on this episode and it's a question or a comment, or if you think we missed anything or that we're wrong about anything, or you just have something to say about Transformers, we'll mention it in the next episode of the Weekly Spoiler Review coming out in hopefully exactly a week. All that being said, move to LA and roll credits.